Now, in 2 days, we'll be celebrating midwives all over the world, the contributions they've made to our own personal development as well as the development of our nation. And the theme for this year is Follow the Data, Invest in Midwives. And I have two of them here. They're going to tell us all about the midwifery ecosystem, how far we've come as a nation, the more work that we need to do to ensure that we achieve all the goals that we need as far as sexual and reproductive health, even avoiding teenage pregnancy and being ready when it comes to our own sexual and reproductive health. I have with me Nana Sewa Ampem Osei-Tutu. She's the midwifery officer at the Dansoman Polyclinic, and of course and also the Greater Accra Regional Secretary to the NAMGH. And Franklin Sabla, who's a senior staff of midwife at the Zenu Polyclinic. Good morning, both of you. It's a mouthful. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
So I'll start with you. Tell us a bit about the midwifery space.
International Day of Midwives is a day set aside globally to honor midwives in their service. So basically, we want the world to know what midwives are contributing to the nations and what we are doing in the nation building of every country.
Okay. Franklin, what are some of the specific tasks that you guys have to deal with in your day-to-day activities?
Thank you. When it comes to midwifery, I think apparently what all we know is a midwife helping the mother to deliver. But I think midwifery goes beyond that. We also look at the sexual and the reproductive health of women in their childbearing age. We also look at the family planning aspect of it. We look at neonates, and we also look at adolescent health, and we also look at
a whole lot of
things when it comes to midwifery.
Okay, so let's take it in bits and pieces. When it comes to taking care of women of childbearing ages, how far have we come as a country?
Even though midwives and stakeholders are doing our best is not enough. Currently, the issue on board is high rate of teenage pregnancy, which I will channel it to COVID. Because of COVID, there was a break in going to those adolescent units to educate them more about their sexuality and the prevention rate they should head to.
And I think the figures out there is very scary. Looking at it, you have the Ashanti region topping with 17,000 plus teenage pregnancy, followed by Eastern region, 10,000 plus, and Greater Accra region, I think, fifth with 7,000 plus. It's very scary. And I think with this, midwives have more work to do.
And that's within a year?
Yeah.
That's the figure that's just been
That's
released.
the latest figures that have been 2020 alone.
Yes.
What more would you need to be able to do the job well? Is it lack of resources? Is it lack of manpower? What is it that we are lacking that even though we have midwives in the country, the numbers of teenage pregnancies continue to go up?
Yes, I think when it comes to issues like this, even though we are doing well, but I would still say we are not doing enough. Apparently, we still don't have enough midwives in the system.
Okay.
And as I speak with you, when you go to rural areas, most of our facilities still find it difficult to get even a midwife to run. That is of a problem.
So if we're going to look at midwife to patient ratio, what would it be? What's the ideal one from the WHO, and what's the reality for Ghana?
The midwife ratio in our country now, if I'm giving the right word, I think it's 1 midwife to 20 pregnant women, or 20 women or 20 adolescents, which is not supposed to be that. At least 1 midwife to 1 patient or adolescent should be the right ratio. But we are not having that. That is why the International Council of Midwives.
Confederation.
This year's celebration, the focusing is on investing in midwives because the education or educating midwife is low. The ratio of midwife is not enough. So stakeholders should look into it so that more midwives will be trained so that those problems would be solved.
Okay.
And also, looking at this year's theme, follow the data and invest in midwives. It speaks a lot. And as I've already said, when it comes to teenage pregnancy, looking at the figures that are very scary, it means that the data that are coming up are evidence of we midwives need to work hard to improve such areas.
Okay. So what are the challenges you guys deal with in your space?
First, the challenge is educating us. After your training, what comes next? Improving in midwifery practice or education is very low in our country. Because if you don't upgrade your midwife wouldn't have the new skills to help women in the country. It's not women alone, children and adolescents.
Okay. Are there any other challenges like access to specific resources to help pregnant women and even young women of childbearing age with their sexual and reproductive health?
Yes, I think most of our villages around still don't have access to healthcare, and specifically antenatal care and delivery specifically. And we still have communities where we have community health nurses and other nurses taking up the responsibility of midwives. So I think the government should focus on the institution. The government should train more midwives so that they'll be able to occupy those spaces.
What more would we need to do to make midwifery attractive in the nation?
What's more we should add up to midwifery is to invest in them. That is by educating them, training them, then equipping them to do their tasks well.
Are you well paid? What are the things that happens in there that will make it attractive? Beyond educating you, obviously, what would make that space more attractive for a young person watching us to say, I want to be like Franklin and Sewa one day?
That is our condition of service. Looking at our conditions of service, it's nothing to write home about. So the government should improve the condition of service for all midwives. Because when we see what we are giving out, it's not what we are taking home. So by doing that, I think midwives will give in their all in working. So we are pleading with the government to give us our COCs as midwives so that we can work wholeheartedly and work very well to prevent or to help bring down problem of maternity, reproductive health, sexuality, STIs that is going on rampantly in the country and helping to achieve it globally by 2030.
So speaking of condition of service, what is the current reality when it comes to some of your wards? Because we've heard stories of people going to give birth. There are no incubators. Mother giving birth on beds that are not suitable for the conditions that they're in. Babies being, thrown into a pool of just all the babies in one place at one time, as opposed to every baby having his or her own specific incubator. People losing their children because some of you guys are not well resourced. You just don't have enough equipment to be able to do your job well. The nation is listening to us. The policymakers are watching us this morning. What are some of the specific things you would want to advocate for so that if you meet your patients next time, you can do your absolute best with the resources you have?
Thank you very much. I think well said. Midwifery has now been taken to a different level. Most of our facilities still lack basic equipment to work with. We still have facilities that don't have simple incubators, which is very sad. And this is very sad because when you deliver a baby that is preterm or a baby that needs to go into the incubator, you'll be forced to refer this client to a bigger facility just because you don't have an incubator, which is bad. And certain essential drugs and other things, and even our working environment, which is very bad.
Has COVID made things more difficult for you as midwives?
Yes.
Tell us specifically the challenges you have.
A lot. When it comes to attending to pregnant women, it is difficult to put out those COVID restrictions there. Imagine me palpating the woman. I can't be in gloves. I have to use my bare hands to palpate. And delivering the woman, it's difficult even for the woman to put on a mask. And these are some of the difficult situations we find ourselves.
So is there any other things?
Then aside that, with equipping midwives, we could see that most of the facilities in Accra or Ghana as a whole, some of them doesn't have a labor ward or maternity unit. Example, when you come to Accra like this, Dansuma Polyclinic is not having a maternity unit. That means after the midwife taking care of them throughout the antenatal period, when it's time for them to deliver, they refer them to other facilities to deliver, which is very bad. A woman, they just bring women in because it's a hospital. They think it should have a labor ward or a maternity facility to deliver those women. So women are brought in, day out, and in doing so, in midwifery, we have time. Everything there is a time. Assuming the time that the woman is supposed to deliver, the woman is brought in the place or to deliver the woman. That means something can happen to the woman or the baby. So if the government build more maternity homes, so any maternal mortality or mobility in the country.
To add up, I think issue of birth syndromes. In my facility, for instance, we don't have enough beds. And here's the case, when you have about 3 or 4 people in labor coming to deliver, the protocol says that after delivery, you are supposed to monitor the pregnant woman for 6 good hours for you to see things being normal before this woman is being discharged and the baby is being discharged home. But here's the case, this is a challenge that we face because you don't have enough beds and you are forced to discharge this woman before the 6 hours because you want to make space for the next woman who wants to deliver. So these are the small challenges that we have in our units.
So let's talk about this year's theme, data and also improving, of course, the midwives.
Yes.
As a nation, do we have enough data on the realities on the ground, the challenges you've shared? If not, where do we begin to start from as far as engaging you, the midwives on the ground, seeing the constraints you have to work with and providing you the adequate resources you need to do well by your patients?
Okay. I think over the years, WHO has done enough by projecting out data, showing most of the challenges that we have in the midwifery fraternity. And the current one that is currently within us, in front of us, is the teenage pregnancy issue. As we speak, when you go to WHO website, we still have globally about 320 per 100,000 maternal mortality worldwide, which is still devastating.
But as a nation, do we have enough idea of what's going on to be able to help our midwives?
Yes, I think most of these informations are found in the Ghana Health Survey MHH website.
Okay.
And I also believe other stakeholders, like our assemblymen, church leaders and staffs, when we come to their communities, they should give us access to those information so that we can help the women and adolescents in their locality. Without them, our work becomes very difficult.
Okay. Now, Franklin, as a male midwife, what are some of the challenges you have to deal with? Are some of the women hesitant to take your services? How do you deal with some of that?
Actually, these are some of the problems I was having when I was about entering into the profession. But since I started working, I've come to realize that it's actually different from that.
Okay.
Most of the women are actually welcoming, and they preferred a male to deliver them with the females. According to them, that
interesting.
We don't shout at them.
Oh,
we pamper them.
So why you guys shout at the women?
Franklin, it's not true. It's not true.
So the males don't shout at them.
No, Franklin,
according to your patients.
According to some of the
patients. So maybe that client of yours met that minister.
He's just telling us the realities. But as we are celebrating our midwives, what advice would you give your fellow colleagues on handling their patients well, especially when it's a teenage pregnancy?
What I'll tell my fellow colleague is that when a teenager comes to you, we shouldn't be judgmental. We should pamper them. And after them delivering, we should give them the advice that that is not the end of their lives. They can still persevere to whatever dreams they have. So we shouldn't shout at them, as Franklin was saying, but then we should pamper them.
Speaking of teenage pregnancy, Franklin, and so you can also answer this question. How do you deal with sexual education, right? Preventive measures like getting people to understand the importance of safe sex in an environment where people are very religious. They want to pretend that these children are not having sex. And so it becomes difficult to give them the materials they need to be able to protect themselves if they do engage in sexual activities.
Thank you. I think already there is a program like the Adolescent School Health, and there are a lot of programs for the teenagers. Mm-hmm. Most of them are being done in various schools, and these programs deals with their reproductive health, their reproductive and sexual health, abstinence, and STIs, mm-hmm. The use of various contraceptives, especially when they are not ready, mm-hmm. and how to avoid pregnancy within 10 to 19 years.
But how do we get rid of the shame attached to safe sex? Because we see so many young people getting pregnant, and sometimes they are just ashamed to use the right material to protect themselves.
I think with that, still our society counts. In this 21st century, we still have some groups or some parents who don't even want to mention or talk about sexuality to their children. So when we go to the various schools or adolescent groups and we are saying it, it's like a news to them. But then we want to assure parents, even though we are doing our work, without their strength, we can't get to where we want to get to. So they should also back whatever we tell their children so that we can get to our destination. There's this teenager who came to my facility, wanted a family planning method. After counseling and everything, even though I need to seek the advice of a parent or a guardian before giving, I spoke with the auntie on phone. Then I wanted to meet the auntie. The auntie came. Then I gave the method to the girl because the girl was sexually active. And with this girl, abstinence, she wouldn't take it. So the only thing is to prevent unintended pregnancy. So we gave the method only for the father to bring the girl in a week time to take out the method because she thinks by threatening the girl or her child, the child wouldn't have sex, which is bad. So I would advise parents to be more open to their children, to talk to them, know their needs and wants so that those kind of issues wouldn't come in. And me, after taking the method, the father was threatening. Even the father wanted to beat us. So we took the method. At the end of the day, we gave another method because the child came back. She intentionally left something there. So parents should know in this century, no matter what they do to their children, they will still do what they want. So we should guide them. And we should talk more about STIs. Because even after taking a method, doesn't prevent you from getting all those STIs, which are deadly.
So how do we get to a point where our midwives are able to even consult people along those lines without necessarily judging them? Because I have a friend who met with one of your colleagues a few years ago about her options sexually, and the midwife had this posture as if you're not married, it's a sin, almost turned into a church mother on the young woman, when that's not what she was looking for. She was looking for professional advice on preventing, how to ensure you don't contract any STIs, all these other things.
Thank you. I think when it comes to issues like this, confidentiality is very paramount. And that is why most of our various institutions, we have this adolescent corner. These adolescent corners are meant for these teenagers, especially who don't want to mingle or to come for people to see them. It's a special corner that is meant for them. We urge the adolescents to come. If you have a problem regarding your reproductive health and sexual activities, come. We have counselors that have properly been trained who will handle you to solve your problems.
Okay, so Anna, let's talk about the emotional intelligence of midwives. You know, we mentioned earlier young women being abused, literally being harassed by midwives when they are delivering. Of course, it's not all of you who do this, but how important is it for midwives to understand that at the time you meet your client who's getting ready to give birth, their mental health is as equally important as your deadline to ensure the baby comes out?
What I would tell my colleagues who are still into that is that they should put themselves in that client's shoe. And they should remember the threshold of your pain is not the same as mine. And where the person or where your client is coming from is different from where you are coming from, which we are taught day in, day out. So they shouldn't forget it. They should always put that in mind, because if they don't put that in mind and they go the other way around, they should remember it even affects the postnatal period, which is not good for the mother, and it's not good for the nation or the community or the midwives fraternity as a whole.
Thank you. You have an event coming up. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yes. This year's International Day of the Midwives will be celebrated in Qatar.
Okay.
That's
wow.
coming Wednesday.
Qatar is beautiful.
And as they'll be doing that in Qatar, our association, National Association of Registered Midwives, is organizing a small breast screening exercise at the Tama station.
Nice.
We expect,
that's not too far from here.
Yes, please. We expect all women to come. And
Is it free?
It's free.
Nice.
You come for breast screening, you come for physical examination, and you also come for family planning, counseling, and services.
Exactly.
Any last words for us?
I would say I equal to all midwives, especially National Association of Registered Ghana Midwives throughout the country, for a good work in the midwifery service. And I'll always tell them that they should aim high and do their work holistically. So I equal to all midwives.
Anything for you, Franklin?
What I want to say is that, please, the work is actually difficult, but we should always look up to God and always remember that this is the work you have chosen and this is your vocation. Remember to serve well and God will also send you afar.
Franklin and Selwa, thank you both so much for the work that you do. We know that it's difficult. You don't get enough resources. You don't get the support that you need. And sometimes as a nation, we can come across as very ungrateful. So on behalf of the whole of Ghana, I want to thank the two of you and all of your colleagues who continue to sacrifice for us every single day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi there. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on City TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.